Bayern Munich took probably one of the more stunning decisions of the season as far as managerial change is concerned when they sacked Julian Nagelsmann. And there's two major reasons as to why exactly it is that's a shock. One, because the team had been doing relatively well, even if not as consistent as Bayern teams in the past. The second was the fact that Nagelsmann, they had paid about 25 million euros for him to get him out of his contract early when he was the RB Leipzig manager, which means they paid 25 million for him, which was a record transfer fee in essence for a manager, as well as offering him about 8 million euros a year, or as far as payment was concerned, on a 5-year deal. That they've terminated it into the second year means they would have had to pay some compensation, which makes this probably one of the more expensive sackings in recent memory. And more so for a coach who is considered of high caliber and one of the brightest young coaches in European football right now. The fact that Bayern chose to part ways with him this early, however, does actually show that there were some deep concerns over why exactly things weren't going as good for Bayern as they should have, as well as the long-term prospects. And those are among one of the key reasons why they went for this man right here, Thomas Tuchel, a proven winner at the top level and generally considered one of Germany's best managers right now. But why exactly was this sacking unfair? What did Nagelsmann do to contribute to it? And why exactly would they go for Tuchel? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video right now. Starting with, of course, why it is that many people found it a little hard to digest that Nagelsmann, a 34-year-old who's one of the brightest managerial prospects in Europe right now, was sacked in the first place. After all, if you look at where it is that Bayern are right now as far as, the competitions are concerned, you'd realize that on the surface at least there's very little to worry about. They're currently on top of the Bundesliga table, they are in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and they're also in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal, meaning that if all things go very well, they could potentially end the season having done yet another treble. That is, of course, the benchmark for success if you're a Bayern Munich manager, player, or a fan. And it did seem likely that they were going to be accomplishing that. So why exactly look to change things up so quickly? Well, inside stories suggest that there were plenty of factors that came into, this decision to part ways with a manager who, as I said, is widely regarded as one of the brightest managerial prospects in Europe. First off, of course, was the fact that there was a bit of a disconnect with the players. This came down to two things. One, tactics changing too often, and two, him not looking to cultivate personal relationships with some of the senior players. Now, this can be a bit of a problem because whilst it's good as a manager to be tactically proficient, you also need to be a people person. You need to be able to get the best out of your players, and that means forming relationships with them, not just talking about tactics. Number two, the style of play. Style of play for Bayern, a side that do consider themselves one of the elite, not just in Europe but the world. Very, very important, and their style of play has been somewhat hit or miss this year. Generally speaking, over the past few years, Bayern have attracted coaches like Pep Guardiola and Carlo Ancelotti, managers who look to attack a lot and play a very effective style of football. Nagelsmann does have that, but it hasn't quite translated onto consistency on the field as of yet. And number three, there was a threat to sustain success. Why? Because right now, despite the fact that Bayern are in fact on the top of the league, their lead is very, very thin. And there was a feeling that if they lost maybe one or two more games, there was the potential of the entire season unraveling. And that is why they made the rather massive decision to sack a manager who, as I said, is considered one of the best and who's also a boyhood Bayern fan, so would know just how much it meant to be part of this club. Which then brings us to our final question: why Thomas Tuchel? Well, for one, there is the simple fact that he is probably one of the best German coaches out there, and more importantly, the best German coaches available to actually take over the project. Yes, you have managers like Jurgen Klopp, but they're very much employed, and Klopp currently will in fact be leading a new rebuilding of Liverpool. What's also worth noting is that Bayern had previously wanted him to come and take over at the club because they felt that he was someone who would be the right long-term fix for them. But because they kind of dithered with appointing him, he ended up joining PSG and then later on joined Chelsea once he had departed PSG. They didn't want that threat of him joining another club, like say for instance clubs like right now, say Tottenham Hotspur is a job that's very much available. There is some uncertainty at Real Madrid and they've always been trigger happy. So there was very much a threat that Tuchel could walk off to another club, and Bayern, who have once previously lost out to him because they chose not to act quickly, have now instead gone the way of making the appointment quick, even if that meant parting ways with Nagelsmann much before than they would have intended. The original plan was that they would sack Nagelsmann or, come to a mutual parting of the ways at the end of the season, but they chose to act quickly for two major reasons. One, they didn't want their season unraveling, and two, they didn't want their main target, Thomas Tuchel, going anywhere else. So that is the two major reasons really why it is they've taken a step as drastic as sacking Julian Nagelsmann this time of the season. And there might just be question marks over how good a job it is that Tuchel could do right now, considering he's coming into the club towards the latter parts of the season. How much of an impact can he really make on their style of play? Or is this going to be something of a long-term rebuilding that they are looking to task him with? We don't really know for sure, but what we know is that Bayern have made the decision and they'll hope that it's one that can bring them the kind of sustained success as well as a good style of play, something that they hadn't quite managed under Nagelsmann. Thank you so much for joining us in this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment. Where do you think Nagelsmann is heading next? You can let us know. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And last but not least, don't forget to download the AajTak app. Also, if you're already on the channel, go ahead and check out some other videos that we've done. For now, though, from my side, goodbye.